We are making progress. Okay, so now I need to just prep this for welding. So I'm gonna clean the bottom of this. It's already chamfered, like a pipe welding style, where, you know, there's a nice gap for the weld to sit down here. So that's nice. Just gonna clean up in there, and I'm gonna preheat. I'm gonna preheat the plate, well, all of it. That way I can make a nice fat weld and make sure it's straight and level. But anyway, time to make a mess. Today, we got the laser out because I'm gonna start figuring out how to map out a helix. I've done a lot of simulations in CAD on Fusion. The real way to do this, in my mind, and probably the most efficient way, is just to start mapping things out. So I know I want a 6-inch ring at the bottom and a 6-inch ring at the top, and in between those two rings, I want a two-stranded helix. Each strand or leg of the helix makes a 360-degree rotation between the bottom and the top. So that math is fairly simple, but I'm gonna use this laser to cast a perfectly horizontal line so that I can start scribing my bottom and top rings, and then we'll just figure out how to connect them with the helixes. I'm thinking of starting at an endpoint and wrapping a string around it and tracing the string. Something pretty simple. So let's start thinking. All right, so we got a line down there, all the way around, 6 inches up. We have a line here, which is the actual midpoint of the pipe. And I'll be doing a line up there because we'll have a 6-inch band up top as well. And I've got two vertical lines that are 180 degrees apart from each other. So those are gonna help a lot when it comes to mapping these helixes out. Do that top line now, figure out how to actually lay out the helix. I'll probably go back to Fusion and do a few more simulations and find some string or wire that'll make wrapping this really easy. I just realized every time I turn the camera on, you're in the background somewhere. Wyatt, all we see is Wyatt's like pants. Yeah, so here in Fusion, I drew a helix, and I did it by drawing a bunch of stacked sketches, offset sketches. And so halfway up the helix, the line is 180 degrees away from where it started, and then all the way up the helix, it's 360 degrees back in the starting spot. I don't know if this is accurate helical math, but I don't care because it looks right, and I'm done thinking about it. So all I'm gonna do now is, like where the start and end points for each line, I'm gonna drill a hole through the cylinder at that spot. That way I can put a pin or a nail, or maybe I'll tap it and put a screw in there. But that'll be what I wrap the string around so that I can pull it around and really make sure that it's in the right spot. And it's being held instead of just like a spring clamp or duct tape or someone's finger trying to hold it in place while I draw. So yeah, that's the plan. Wyatt, you see any problems with that plan?
I mean, how hard could it be?
Exactly. See, now you're starting to come around. I used to say that Black Dog all the time because we were asked to do ridiculous things. Like one time I used a chainsaw while standing on the boom of a crane.
Oh.
Yeah.
They asked you to do that.
It was a collective idea. Yeah, that was.
It was a collective idea.
That was before we started getting emails from people at home going, "I'm an OSHA inspector and I'd have you guys bankrupt." Not that we really changed what we did because of heads like that.
We just didn't show it on TV anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's get out there. I'm gonna finish that top ring and drill some holes. Okay, so each line on this tube, there's 2 of them that go all the way to the top. Each has 3 holes in it. One's an inch from the bottom, one's right in the middle, and one's an inch from the top. Those have been tapped and threaded to 1/4-20 threads. So now I'm gonna put some bolts in there and let them stick halfway out, and that will be what I wrap my string around. Now is the moment where we start to see a helix take shape. All right, I think we are ready to cut. So as you saw in that time lapse, I drilled 2, 4, 6, 12 more holes and ran 4 more cables, wires, which will lay out my actual cut line. So the one I did before was the center line of the strip. It's not actually something I needed to cut. By painting it, by the way, I'm using that trick to leave a line where the wire was. Because now I can take the wires off. There's a line left there from the paint overspray, and I can go back over that with a cutoff wheel, cut a little groove into the metal, so it's easier to follow when it comes time to actually plasma cut. So I did my best. There's 1,000 other ways, I'm sure, to map out a helix, but if you walk around it, it looks pretty cool. It definitely is going to have that effect. And so what I'll be doing is I won't cut it all in once. I'll cut out little sections, like I'll cut that bottom and then a little bit. And then I want to weld in the crossbars as I cut. So to keep this thing from springing out or spreading out or anything. I don't think it's going to, but you never know. These pipes might have a lot of force in them, a lot of natural tension from the rolling and welding process. So I'll think more about how to cut this thing. So this part has taken a little while just because I want to get it right. It's a little nerve-wracking. Once we start cutting, there's no going back. And yeah, there's no going back. So I'm gonna grab my cutoff wheel, scribe these lines, and then we'll start cutting. Although pretty soon I'm gonna need to go pick up the round tubing that I'm gonna use as are they proteins and DNA? Do you know what they're called?
Links.
The connecting bars? I know for sure they're not called links. I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. I was born at 6 p.m. for what it's worth. Some hippie chick out there has lots to tell me now that I've told her what time I was born.
There is no hippie chick watching your channel.
That's true.
Because there's no chicks watching your channel.
Unfortunately, the demographics back that up. Yeah, the analytics, it says it's like 95% male.
Yeah.
So there's a chance.
The only female is like your mother, your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or used to be.
My ex-girlfriends definitely don't watch it. I'm gonna use my Milwaukee brushless cutoff wheel. Not a sponsor, but I'm open to it.
Turn off the light. Do you know I'm coming home tonight? Don't do 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 do. Don't do 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 do. Help me, babe. Alright. I don't understand the way you make me feel. I will climb a mountain just to let you know it's real. Break my bread and I can drink your wine. Girl, you
because I want to brace as I go. So I can put my first brace at this midpoint and hold a hole. And then I'll pretty much map out my braces on the outside and leave sections of the tube in between the braces, not cut, to help hold it together until all the braces are welded in. And then I can go back and cut.
Don't go around, leave this whole section.
Yeah.
And only go up there.
That's true.
That leaves a lot of meat, a lot of material.
It's true. I'll say it a fourth time. That's true. He needed something today. I'm treading where few have trodden before. It's like all this prep work is finally like when I'm sitting there cutting with the plasma, I'm like, oh God, so we're finally here. Yeah. We're finally at this part of the project. All right, so back on this Helix, had a fun little detour, cutting some art out. I'm gonna continue to do that, but there's two videos happening at the same time. But really, my main goal is to work on these horizontal braces as I cut this material away so that this thing doesn't spring or do anything weird. So I've got some 2-inch Schedule 40 pipe. This stuff, pricey these days. So I don't have to bevel these at all because the radius is really gradual, so I'm just gonna cut it to fit. Figure out my best way to position them while I weld. So this first one's gonna take some trial and error, but no big deal. It'll all make sense in a second. All right, 30 makes it a little hard to get straight. So I'm just gonna take an 1/8 off until we get a measurement that works, and that'll be my new template. We are making progress. It's getting a little wobbly the more I cut away, but that's a given, and this thing is going to be bolted to concrete when it's finished, so that'll help. Right now, it's balancing on 4 pucks in the corner, so that's certainly not helping things. But I'm going to keep going. Got a system down now. man, we're back at it again. You know, per usual, getting started at 2 p.m. No, but today is going to start the process that I'm not exactly looking forward to, which is grinding everything smooth, grinding all this dross off of this, you know, cut edge here, all this little like molten metal bits. They come off pretty easy, but you just gotta touch it all. I now have to touch every square inch of this thing with a grinder and smooth it out. You know, my cut's not super smooth. It was all handheld, but I have a little reinforcement to do. I have one more of these pipes to put in at the bottom, and maybe an X to put in because it's a bit wobbly now. And I knew that was going to happen. We just never knew the severity of said wobble. I also have to fully weld everything, so and do another pass on the bottom. So really, it's just a bunch of fiddle farting around, fully welding, fully grinding, shaping, cleaning, basically reconciling after all the chaos that was all the cutting and all that. So I'll do that now and see you in a bit.
Time lapse, here we come!
Montage. Well, it's been a grindy kind of day. Today's been a real grind.
Oh, you stink!
Been spending a lot of time smoothing out this cut. You know, the plasma cutter, handheld plasma cutter anyway, leaves quite a bit of cut just because of quite a bit of, I can't even talk. Wavy, it's wavy and rugged and not smooth. So, for more than one reason, I wanted to go over this with a grinder and smooth it out. And it's just a bunch of, you know, real not sexy labor, but starting to look good. All of the tubes are fully welded. The holes that I used to pilot them have been filled in, and it's starting to feel good. It's still got some wobble to it. You can see that, but that's all right. We're gonna do a few things to try to mitigate that. I believe we're gonna put some bracing down here, some kind of diagonal X brace possibly. Maybe not. I'm not exactly sure how much that's honestly gonna help because, you know, the flex is coming from these ribbons and the space in between the poles. But one other thing I need to do at this stage of the build is to cut some semicircle openings at the bottom here to let water out. Probably 4 in each quadrant, and I'm probably gonna go back over this weld with a finish weld. This is kind of a root weld. I may do that, or weld on the inside, but I'd like to put another bead on the outside. And then really, this stage of the build is kind of done. After this, we'll coordinate with whoever's sandblasting it, and then we will take the collar that I made previously and start working with Black Dog and their collection of rebar to make the tree limbs. And then that obviously will bolt on to this, and there's some other things we need to do. We need to get some stainless material and cut out the little tools and shapes that are gonna hang from those branches with cable. Yeah, kind of closer than, we're closer than I realize, which is good. I don't want to drag this thing on too much longer. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm really stoked with how it looks. It's pretty bizarre. I've never seen anything like this. I'll try to back up so you get the whole view. There you go. Anyway, about to wrap up for the day, but about to move on to the next phase. So exciting stuff.